I was getting ready to go to bed. I had gotten home from work, and the New York Jets said, no, 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 no. You wake up because we just traded for Davante Adams. It happened. We'd been talking about it potentially happening, and they got it done. This man was in New York like that. He was, I don't know if you saw this video. They do Aaron.
Yeah, wasn't he already with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Wasn't he already with him like this morning or whatever?
He was there for Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. Apparently, he red-eye flighted as soon as they were talking about this trade getting done. He was like, "Hey, I am not coming back. You guys need to get this trade done. Send my stuff after me. If you don't, that's fine. I'm buying new stuff. I'm going to go hang out with my boy Aaron." The trade was Las Vegas receives a 2025 third-round pick that can become a second-round pick, but the Raiders also don't have to worry about any of Davante Adams' contract. The Jets are going to pay all of it. They've already restructured a little bit so that his cap hit this season is only $3.2 million. Raiders dead cap for this season is $13.67 million, and then $15.7 million for next season. So definitely they're rebuilding. Obviously a big loss, but also not having to pay that huge contract. I think the next 2 seasons, his contract is currently $36 million a year. So something like that. So not having to pay that is going to be huge. But Chus, what are your thoughts? I mean, we just saw the Jets on Monday Night Football, and now they've got a whole new offense already.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we kind of talked about it, I believe, what was it, last week with Stan? We kind of briefed on it. We were talking about Davante Adams possibly moving to New York. I'm a little skeptical, though. I'm not going to lie. I think that the idea of Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers having that magic that they once had in Green Bay is a cool thought, but I don't know if it's actually going to form in New York. I think that it's possible that it could. I mean, this was just a great duo back in Green Bay. I mean, it really was. I mean, a lot of people love that duo. And then obviously, as Green Bay moved on from Aaron Rodgers, they also moved on from Davante Adams shortly after, and both players went on their respective ways, staying in the AFC together, but obviously never really seeing each other in the matchups ever. But I think that it's an interesting move, though, for the Jets. I don't know if it's going to entirely fix some of the issues that the Jets have been having. It might, though, because obviously they were really close to probably winning yesterday had they maybe had an extra wide receiver. Like I said, I don't think Mike Williams is that good. I think Garrett Wilson is good, but you can only do so much with Garrett Wilson before people start realizing, oh, wait, Garrett Wilson is the guy, and everybody else that is playing wide receiver for the Jets is probably not that good. However, Allen Lazard, though, has been also popping off, so I can't speak for all of the Jets as well. But with adding Davante Adams, it might shift the wide receivers. I think now they have a little bit more to work with than just, Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson, who is, like I said, Allen Lazard's a good player, but I don't think he's as talented as like a Garrett Wilson or a Davante Adams. But now you have somebody that's decent and 2 really good players. And you also have Davante Adams being a veteran who's played with Aaron Rodgers before, and Garrett Wilson, who has just been Garrett Wilson. So, I mean, I think, though, that it's interesting that they have 2 former Green Bay wide receivers in New York to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. But I'm skeptical to see how it ends up turning out, because although the chemistry is there, I don't know if it'll entirely fix some of the possible issues that the Jets have had. I mean, they've already fired their coach. I mean, they came up just short of a win against Buffalo. Granted, that's a divisional matchup. Those games are always relatively close, and especially in this time of NFL, I mean, it was going to be a close game. I really think that this Sunday against the Steelers is going to be very telling, because you're going to have Davante Adams there. You're going to have your new offense, as you say, and new head coach. Well, kind of. I mean, he had his first game he already coached, but new head coach with the new offense and whatnot, you're going to really see how everything goes going into Sunday night. But I'm a little skeptical with it. I don't think it's a bad trade, but it might not be the answer.
So Stan had texted me his takeaways from the Monday Night Football game.
Mhm.
Most of those kind of get thrown out the window by this. This changes the offense completely.
Mhm.
He did say that Todd Downing, who is the new offensive play caller in New York, did a really good job in his opinion. And I'd agree with that. I thought they did a really good job of getting Breece Hall involved more. He hadn't really been involved a whole lot this offseason or this offseason. This season. It feels like the
Mhm.
offseason. This season, at least as much as you'd expect him to be. Um, I think what's really interesting about this move, though, and you mentioned Mike Williams. Stan also said Mike Williams has not been good.
Mm-mm.
Uh,
No, nowhere close to what he was in LA.
right. And I don't know if you watched Aaron's press conference, but he threw Mike Williams under the bus.
Yeah, but he wasn't he. Mike Williams was didn't he slip and cause an interception? Wasn't that him, or was it somebody else?
That was, yeah. And
Yeah.
then Aaron said he also didn't run the right route on the
Mm.
last interception of the game. So I don't know if this Davante Adams trade was already in the works and Aaron knew that and he knew he could get away with it, but he threw Mike Williams under the bus so hard, and they're already talking about trading Mike Williams now. This is going to be a huge deal. But you mentioned also Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard has been essentially he's been the wide receiver 2 in New York. Now he's wide receiver 3.
Which kind of in a way, I mean, I kind of would compare it to how, I mean, I don't know how you'll feel about this, but I kind of even compare how the Jets wide receiver room looks like, how they kind of can compare to how the Bengals used to look like, with you got your top guy, a really good guy, and then, Tyler Boyd being that wide receiver 3, who wasn't necessarily like better than T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but I would say that he was arguably, I mean, he was a wide receiver 1 at one point, and I feel like any one of these guys could probably, I mean, Alan Lazard might be a stretch, but I feel like any one of these guys could probably get away with being a wide receiver 1 or have already been a wide receiver 1. So it's curious to see that, they kind of have that wide receiver core like the Bengals did at one point. So, but once again, I don't know how entirely sold I am on it. It's a little different. It's a little
I
different from the
think
Bengals.
I think this is going to help. People are saying this is going to hurt Garrett Wilson. I think this is going to help Garrett Wilson a whole lot.
I think it's gonna open up Garrett Wilson. I think it'll open him up because people are gonna be now coordinators, coaches, they're gonna have to eye for not just one wide receiver but 2 wide receivers, and they're not gonna be able to neutralize both. So I think it's gonna be boom bust weeks with both of them. I think some weeks they're gonna target more Garrett Wilson, other weeks it's gonna be targeting more Davante Adams, and then Alan Lazard is just gonna be sprinkled in here and there. So.
Well, and this allows you to move Garrett Wilson into the slot if you
Which is,
want.
yeah.
It allows you to move him around the field. Also, this is going to be the first time Garrett Wilson isn't just double or triple teamed because he's the only offensive talent. Now the Jets have actual weapons. They have a competent quarterback throwing to him. And Garrett Wilson has had 1,000-yard seasons with Zach Wilson throwing to him. So, I mean, Garrett Wilson can get it done, and we have not seen what Garrett Wilson can be yet. I do think there is a level of tension on this, though, that if this doesn't work out, like you've said, you're skeptical. I think it's going to work out, but you said you're skeptical.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, this is going to look really bad because they've effectively said whatever Aaron Rodgers wants, Aaron Rodgers gets, and they have to win a Super Bowl now with Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion.
I'm not gonna lie, Josh. I don't know if you're basing. I'm gonna base this off of 2 seasons, like this season and next season. I don't know if the Jets are gonna be able to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 seasons. Next season, maybe, but I mean, you also have to figure out where the Jets are gonna place this season, who they're gonna play next season, and how well those teams look, as well as you have to hope that some of these players don't age next year, because a lot of these guys. Don't kid yourself. Like Davante Adams doesn't look like he's slowing down. Aaron Rodgers still looks pretty good, but you can kind of see drop-offs occur. And I mean, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember how old Mike Williams is, but his drop-off is crazy from when he went from LA to, New York. And now, like I said, Davante Adams is playing with Aaron Rodgers. Mike Williams used to play with Herbert and whatnot. So, I mean, it's a little different, but it's just kind of, I'm just a little skeptical. And I don't know if I'm entirely sold yet on the Jets winning a Super Bowl with the under Aaron Rodgers. I think, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. That's why I'm a little skeptical. I want, honestly, for Stan, I want the Jets to do some sort of insanity run, because I feel like Stan deserves some happiness, especially since the Jets have always been like a team that nobody ever considers for anything. So I kind of hope for Stan's sake that they actually do pull a 180, but I'm still a little skeptical. I'm not going to lie.
What do you have any specific thing that you're worried about with this? Because I feel like their weakness last night was the red zone. They couldn't get this done they couldn't get the ball into the end zone from the red zone. And Davante Adams is a big body to add back there. And that's why I'm just like, this fixes it in the best way possible that you can if you're the New York Jets.
So although they have the chemistry and whatnot, I think the one thing that kind of concerns me is just that since it's been a minute, it might take a little bit to get reacclimated, which is kind of small. So I'm not really worried about that. But I think that the one thing is that with the timing of throwing the ball to each other, it's going to have to get back into that rhythm, which they will, because obviously they may not have even lost it. I mean, we could see Sunday Night Football. He could throw up a long bomb and Davante Adams could just blow past all the Steelers defensive backs. And I'm expecting possibly for that to happen, because I'm a man on the show that ends up eating his words a lot of times. So I'm not entirely surprised if that occurs. But I mean, I think the other thing though, also that kind of worries me with this move also is kind of how you said with the Aaron Rodgers thing, is if they start losing with Davante Adams, it could cause a lot of issues. And even if they lose one game or two games or something like that, let's say Aaron Rodgers throws it to Garrett Wilson or throws it to Davante Adams. Davante Adams, doesn't get the touchdown, but Garrett Wilson could have, or something like that. It could cause weird tension in the locker room. And then people are going to start blaming Davante Adams. And all of this is a real big stretch. I mean, obviously this is crazy to consider, because everyone, how do we know that this is going to happen? But I also, I feel like some of the things also, I mean, I feel like with the Jets also, I feel like even though their defense has been okay, I feel like their defense has also had their moments where you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe they're not as good as I thought, but I mean, they're still fine. And it's the same thing with the offense. I mean, I feel like it's going to be fine, but I'm still I don't know what it is. I feel like there could be more turmoil in the sense that some players might get fed up that Aaron Rodgers gets whatever he wants and they're still not going to win. And I think that could cause players to want to jump ship by the end of the season, which makes me skeptical of a next season with how that's going to work. Because then at that point, it's like, okay, not saying Garrett Wilson will, but what happens if Garrett Wilson's like, you know what, Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing to me anymore. He's got Adams and Alan Lazard. I want out of New York. And I mean, that's crazy, but it could happen. I mean, these are things that you have to consider, because whenever I'm thinking about if the Steelers were to make this move and Davante Adams came into Pittsburgh, and obviously he's not, because he's not here, but he's going to New York. But I just have to preface that, because for some reason somebody's going to comment that. But I felt like when it came to that, it was like, oh yeah, you put Davante Adams in there, and it's like, okay, yeah, George Pickens gets mad. Okay, well, I'm okay with losing George Pickens, because George Pickens has been kind of a problem. But also, yeah, I mean, but we're never going to be able to talk about that. We have other things to talk about. But I think that sometimes I don't know how, you have to be able to do the give or take thing. And also, I'm still more, I don't know if it's necessarily skepticism this year. I mean, the head coaching, the play calling has to make sure it's consistent, but I'm more concerned about it being next year, because this might be more of an adjustment season of trying to get everything to work. And then you have to hope and believe the next season works, because if next season does not work, then it's like you said, it's all for naught. Because this season, I feel like I said, you got new play calling, you've got new coaching, you got new everything. I mean, it's still going to take some time to get back into the rhythm of everything. Might take a little bit longer, work out the kinks and whatnot. I mean, the Jets could make a quick wild card run, But I think next year, like you said, it's going to be boom or bust. And if they bust really hard, or Aaron Rodgers' other Achilles does something really funny, what was the trade for? What was the trade for?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just have a weird gut feeling about it, man. I just have a really weird gut feeling.
Well, Chus and his gut are a bit skeptical of this. The Jets are putting all their eggs in one basket.